Seat. It's 8:23, so we'll give everybody a few minutes to get in.
Do people post comments on Facebook?
They do.
I don't know how to monitor that.
You know what? I'm going to put Facebook on my other computer, and I'm just going to turn off the volume.
Well, look how tech savvy we are now.
I know. It's nice, isn't it?
It's
kind of cool.
And since I don't have multiple computers here, I'm going to let you monitor Facebook.
You don't? You don't have? I can't live. I have 3 screens, but I can't live without at least 2 screens. Like, it makes me crazy.
Oh, wow.
I'm always, okay. Oh, see, I can see myself turning my head. So what happens is what on Facebook, I know Kapu comes in on Facebook usually. Danielle, who's on my team, comes in on Facebook, and then Copley, I think Copley's last name. Copley usually comes in on Facebook. So I'm going to try to keep up with it.
Welcome, Amanda and Ellen. I have to give Amanda a huge shout out. So she and Beth had sent me these amazing socks. It says awesome at the bottom across the foot, or strong, or I forget what the third one says. And so earlier this week, I was like, God, I am just having a crap day. And Amanda was like, are you wearing the socks? And I got to tell you, Amanda, I wore the socks yesterday. I felt like a freaking maniac. It was fantastic. So ridiculous that they were so empowering just by putting on my socks.
See, and that's so awesome. I love that.
Yeah. It was one of those, like, I just needed to, I think as Amanda put it, you just need to wait for your mojo to come back. She'll be back. So.
What about, I can't even read that. I'm having trouble with my screen this morning, ladies. It doesn't look at it.
She says what we say about ourselves matters. And that's so true, right? Because I think we spend a lot of time in our heads putting ourselves down. Oh my God, I lost, or whatever the fact pattern is.
Yeah.
You're harder on yourself than anyone else ever is.
Oh, absolutely. And I try to do that with my kids, like get them to stop that, like if they can't, oh, I'm just stupid. And I'm like, okay, let's reword that.
Change the dialogue.
Yeah. Right. We have to change that because it's not who you are. So it's 8:25. We're going to get started. Welcome everyone to Empowering Women Entrepreneurs. Today we're going to be talking about, where do you find your best learning opportunities? Are they webinars, books, blogs, online conferences? Because nobody's going to a conference right now. Is it peers? And how often do you engage in learning? And the other one I didn't put in here is like Facebook groups.
Yeah.
And of course, we have the lovely Aisha Hamilton, who I have to throw a shout out to. I had a family member reach out to me last night, and knowing that I know Aisha because I am connected, she was having a trouble at work, and she's at where she works, and it had to do with COVID. And she says, do you think you could ask Aisha about it? And I texted Aisha because it is kind of a complex thing. And Aisha's like, just tell her to call me. So, and she was very, very grateful. And so that worked out really well. So once again, she is the champion of employees.
Thank you. As Beth says, she didn't get the pearls memo, but this is pretty cool.
I know. Well, all right. So I have to tell you, I am dressed because I'm not going to any Christmas parties. It's like Meg Hennington had put a picture of her and her husband dressed up for a Christmas party last year. And she goes, guess I won't be wearing this anywhere. And I was like, damn, Skippy, I gotta get dressed up. So this is what I would wear to a Christmas party. Now, mind you, I have like 3 outfits. So I will be wearing them next year when we're out. So when you see me, you have to be shocked. Be like, oh my God.
I've never seen that.
I've never seen that before. And the pearls, I think the pearls are very holiday-esque.
It works, right? Pearls and jeans, pearls and sweatpants. It's all good.
Doesn't matter. Party on the bottom, business on the top.
Right. So let's dive in. So this was a topic that I really was inspired by you, Alyssa. because you're always talking about blogs and conferences and the things that you do to sort of energize yourself. So
Yeah.
what's your favorite thing that you do to sort of enhance your knowledge?
Well, it used to be to go to conferences. Conferences were like spot on, those times when you could be in a workshop and get information from somebody in the industry who's like a leader and has been there, done that. But it also provided you the opportunity that after the workshop, you talk with other people in your industry and you have these great conversations. And is Irene on here? I can't, no, she's not
No,
on here
not
today.
yet.
But Irene, I met at a conference. And her and I just got to be great friends. But also, you can talk to the person who gave the workshop. I can't tell you how many times I've had these great one-on-one conversations with people who've actually given the workshop.
Right.
And that was great. Okay, so now in COVID, how am I learning? Webinars and having, I'm starting to find groups. I do some Facebook stuff, but I'm trying to find groups of learning pods,
Right.
people who are, I just encountered one yesterday. Their acronym is BIG. It's Believe, Inspire, and I don't know what the G stands for, but it's all women entrepreneurs.
Oh, wow.
And it's very cool. And I was like, okay, so let me see what this group is like. I'm always looking for other people who have great ideas.
Oh,
So
that says believe, inspire, grow.
thank you. That's what it is.
Ah, I'm writing that down.
Yeah, it's really cool. I talked with the owner yesterday and she started it. She lives in New Jersey now. She's originally from New Jersey. But a lot of people in that group are, and she's very honest about it. She's like, look, this is highly educated women who are affluent, who have spent probably the first part of their lives raising their kids. And they realize, I want to be just more than Jason's mom.
Right.
Jason, I'm sure your mom's very proud to be your mom now. You know what I mean? So very interesting. So I'm intrigued because it seems to be a good spot for learning. So what about you? You
So,
have to learn. You actually have to get your continuing education credits.
yeah,
So you have that of have to, but then you also have the want to. So
yeah.
like,
I
how do you
tell
do
you,
that?
I get a lot of energy and inspiration from doing those CLE credits. I love
Oh,
it.
okay.
I love doing them. I find myself teaching them as well, but
Mhm.
in the process of actually presenting, you're learning a lot because you're really thinking about I just presented a couple days ago an employment law program for matrimonial lawyers. Like, how wacky is that, right?
Wow.
But it's breaking down if you're if you're an owner of your
Yeah.
practice, breaking down employment laws so you know how to think about them when you get an issue come up. Um,
Yeah.
but my greatest joy in learning used to be sitting next to people at conferences, right? So Beth reminded me that we met at a conference, and for the past 4 years, I want to say Beth, Amanda, and a group of other women have attended this conference in Atlantic City that's usually in May. And we would make sure that we planned a dinner out and got to spend time together for the 3 days that we were down there. And honestly, I really miss that. I
I
miss
know.
the energy of that. I miss that I would go to these sessions and take notes, and I would leave with legal
Oh,
full of notes
yep.
on stuff as I'm sitting there thinking, oh, I can use this on this case.
Hmm.
This would be great on this case. And you just came back energized.
Yep.
I don't
Yeah.
feel the same way from Zoom
No,
conferences. The
no, me neither.
information is still good. It's easier to attend them.
Yeah.
It's not quite the same because I also miss the in-person stuff too.
Yeah.
So,
You know what? I miss those conversations. And I think that is part of the learning. Like you said, you met Beth and Amanda. It's like having those intimate conversations about your business, about their business, about what you're learning, and just I don't know. I
in
think
fact, I
that
think I met Jason for the first time at a Princeton Chamber of Commerce. I think it was the IBA, like the Business Association.
Oh, okay.
And I think, you know, these are friendships that I've developed from
Mhm.
being in the room with people, right?
Yeah.
So it's tough not to do that. But back to sort of the topic of learning, you are so fantastic because you also use sort of podcasts to supplement sort of
Yeah.
what you're doing. I just can't get into podcasts. I don't know what it is.
Well, I mean, I've found a couple of them. And again, people that I've met at conferences that we still talk will share like, oh my God, you have to listen to this podcast. So that's been pretty fabulous. And then I actually try to listen to podcasts outside of my industry. Um, and I listen to Joe Rogan, and I have to laugh. Like the Joe Rogan Experience, it's totally inappropriate. It's freaking hilarious. He curses. He's just, and he calls himself liberal, but I think he's more center liberal than he is like really out there. But I have to tell you though, I can't tell you how many times I've listened to him and I'm writing down ideas like, really? Oh, that sounds, it's like, yeah. And so I feel like you can glean learning from many different places. And in this environment, I think we have to start to figure that out, that, learning situations aren't going to be as presented as they were before.
Right.
I think we're going to be a little bit more independent. Do you have like a peer group, like on Facebook, we have like accounting influencers and quick QB power hour. Like we post questions on it and everybody interacts. And do you have that?
I'm a member. I know Beth and Amanda might be as well. There's a group called NJ Law Mamas. So
Ah,
that's cute. It's cute.
really?
I don't, I'm not active on it, but I read the stuff that they post. I also am part of sort of my industry specific, like National Employment Lawyers Association listservs.
Okay.
And so I find a lot of learning through that, right? So
Oh,
somebody
okay.
posts a question and then someone posts the answers. And you sort of are like, every time there's a post, I'm like, oh, that's a great way to look at it, or that's the case I've been looking for. So there's a lot of learning that happens that way.
Yeah.
And I find that I'm not as then likely to seek learning through podcasts or
Right.
additional webinars and stuff because I'm feeling overwhelmed by that in itself. Because there can be too much too.
It is. I totally agree, because then you try to figure out, what am I going to learn first?
Yeah.
Where do I, in your day that feels like it's 22 hours long,
Right.
and so that actually leads to another question. How do you set aside time to learn? You're under the gun where you have to have it.
Yeah.
And so what do you do? How do you figure that out?
I think you sort of, for me, it feels more organic, like I'm not planning. But one of the things that I do find helpful is when when you write a blog or something, just as part of your marketing process, that is time to set aside to say, okay, look, I know this topic generally, but I want to fine tune this particular issue. And so there's a little bit of learning that takes place there. But just, I have to say sort of lurking, right? So lurk on listservs. You don't have to be active, but you can read, right? Read what they're posting. I also get the New Jersey Law Journal. So I have this like hard paper newspaper that comes to me once a week. I have about a stack of 30 of them that I need to read, but that will be Christmas break. So I'll set aside time to do things like that.
Yeah.
But I
Okay.
will tell you that like in my downtime where I'm sort of looking at like, okay, I don't want to read something. I
Yes.
don't want to listen to a serious podcast.
Yeah.
I really just want to laugh. And so I set aside that time, because I
Right.
think if I intentionally do not set aside time for downtime,
Oh,
in this Zoom environment, you could work a 20-hour day, no
oh.
question about it. And
Easy.
that's just not creative. It's not
No,
productive.
it's not. And I like it that you said creative, because I think that that's part of it. I think that, you know, any industry is creative.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's accounting, and I don't mean the nefarious creative accounting, nor the nefarious creative law that some. So but it is. It's we're constantly solving problems, and I think if you take time to learn and then you take that time. I mean, think about it. When do you have those epiphanies? In the shower,
Right.
when nobody's around and you're thinking about, and you go, oh my God, that's
That's
it. So I like it that you carve out time for that. I do carve out time for learning. I actually have started blocking off my calendar because there's so many things that come out that I want to read, that I want to learn about, that I want to bring to my team, because my job on my team is to bring new innovative concepts to make their work easier. Now, at first, when I bring it, then they're not very happy. They're like, "Oh my
Here
God,
he goes again.
here she goes again." And then many times when they learn it, they go, "Oh, all right, this is faster."
And that's where I have to say, I pick up a lot of great ideas at conferences.
Hmm.
Because you're meeting vendors, and I think that's really helpful, right? I miss that sense of sort of walking through a conference floor, and I'm always looking for the giveaways, right? The squeezy ball or the pens. I get a lot of highlighters. For a few years there, I never bought a highlighter because I got my highlighters at conferences.
Yep.
But you're also learning about new and different ways to do things. And so, if there's a new software out there, that's the innovations that I've made in my law practice have really come from going to conferences.
And from your peers at the conference.
Right.
How, and that makes me think, like, how can we recreate that?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say this conference I presented at, they
Mhm.
tried very hard to create a Zoom room where you would go and visit vendors. And I didn't do that because I sort of was thinking, well, am I going to get stuck in a vendor Zoom room talking to someone because nobody else is there? And then I always feel bad leaving. It's hard enough at a conference table, right? Where you're like, okay, I got to walk away. I'm going to go get some coffee. How do you gracefully exit the Zoom room?
Oh, wait a minute. I have a conference story that I have to tell you, one thing that I'm glad about. So I was at a conference, and you just meet people. Like you said, you talk to people. So I ended up talking with this gentleman. He was sitting next to us at a table. I was actually with a group of women. We were just all talking. We kind of brought him along with our group and stuff. For some reason, he interpreted this as a go signal
Oh,
for, yeah. And I was like, whoa. Yeah, it was. I don't miss that at all. Not one freaking iota. I have to say, at most of my conferences, it's mostly women.
yeah,
So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he was trolling for.
a good time.
I know. I couldn't believe it. I was just totally shocked by, he says, I like, it was like, okay, it's good night. I'll see you later. He goes, don't you want to invite me up to your room?
Oh, that's awful.
It's
Oh,
like, like I couldn't even believe it. So that I don't miss about conferences,
yeah,
but it was a learning curve because I I wasn't expecting it whatsoever.
right.
So always be on your guard.
The other thing I do, and I do this, in Zoom conferences as well as like in person. If I encounter a speaker who's really, really good, and I
Mm.
think, wow, that person is really inspirational. Like I enjoyed the content. I took a lot of notes. I think they also sort of project a certain air. I will immediately like Google them, stalk them, look at their profile at their firm, look at the organizations that they're involved in, because that sort of gives you a little bit of a roadmap, right? Of
Of who
no
they
one's
are.
going to tell you this stuff. Nobody tells you like go get involved in this, go get on this, board or get interested in certain ways. But I think I just feel like organically, that was how I learned that this is the type of profile you need to build to be at
Right.
a particular place in your career. Um, so that's sort of a little bit of inspiration and learning that I get along the way.
And I'm glad you said that because I do that too, but I just thought it was me being stocky-ish. And because I do, like I always I look at people and I say like where did they go to school? What companies have they worked for and what groups do they belong to?
Right.
So again, another place for learning. I actually do find some good things on LinkedIn. There are occasionally some good articles that I find to be good also.
Right. I think, and that sort of ties in well with your marketing, right? Because if you're always, the marketing messaging is read something on LinkedIn, share it, but write a couple of sentences to go with it, right? Don't
Yeah.
just share it,
Yeah.
or comment on that person's page and start a conversation. It's, it's time consuming because you got to read the article.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of learning that happens in that, right? Because as
Yeah.
you're reading, you're analyzing, you're formulating your response. Just do it right away. Do it then.
Yeah, it's definitely not one of those things to put off,
No,
which I think overall anything that we do, whether it's education or doing our marketing, if you don't set aside time to do it, it's
right.
not going to happen. You're not going
So
to.
Amanda raises this fantastic point. She says Zoom conferences deprive us of the intimacy and the ability to build trust with new people. So
Yeah.
that's exactly hitting it on the head, right?
Yes.
But maybe there's a way to do that now, right? So if I think back to the first time I met Beth, we sat next to each other at a conference at the same table. We might have chatted for a bit. We might have exchanged cards. We might have followed up. So the initial trigger was you're sitting next to each other at a table, right? But the follow up is where you built the trust.
That's true.
And
That's true.
so if
It's
we
that
think of
second.
it that way, maybe that opportunity still exists. Um,
Yeah. So I guess if there was a conference and they had breakout rooms where you could discuss something, talk about yourself, but also discuss something, and then you could decide to have follow-ups. I
right.
did I did meet someone in one of those large networking Zoom things and they put us in little breakout rooms. Um, it's hard though, because I feel like you have to really weed through, you know,
Yeah. And there's
those.
and you're both right, Amanda and Elisa, there's a sense of trust
Mm,
that you get from an in-person energy, right?
yeah.
It sounds hokey, but it's completely different than looking across the screen at somebody, because you just, you're missing out on all the like twitchy cues and
Yeah.
all the other stuff that leave you with your, the hairs on the back of your neck going, I'm not sure
Mm.
about that connection.
Yeah. No, that's true. I totally agree. Um, I know. I don't know. Like that's another thing to still figure out because I think we're going to be inside for a little while longer.
Yeah. So Michelle raises a great point about, being sad that our college freshmen who should be learning
Oh,
in a person-to-person environment are having to learn to connect across Zoom screens.
yeah.
And Amanda, seconded that. And I think what maybe my hope is that we will learn from them, as
Hmm.
we do with a lot of things, is maybe that next generation is just better at connecting through their phone screens as they seem to have been now. I mean, you could
Yeah.
ask one of them to make a phone call and they'd be like, why would I do that?
Oh my God, my phone can do that.
Yeah, exactly.
What's it used for? Yeah. No, that's interesting. I agree. I think we are going to be learning differently in the future. I mean, first of all, the schools have never even thought of doing this online learning, at least, high schools and middle schools and elementary schools. And I think that's going to change learning a bit as it goes on. I'm very sad for anybody that's starting a new school. My daughter's a new freshman in a high school. And so she's not getting the high school experience. She's getting the home experience. So, and she's in school, like she's in school today, but
Yeah.
It's few and far between. So what, all right, so at this stage in your career, what are you looking for in terms of education? Like where, like, what do you want to learn?
So interesting that you asked that, right? So yesterday, I signed up for an American Bar Association Women Rainmakers 1 hour presentation. Now, when I saw the notice for this, and I thought, oh, I definitely want to sign up for that, because at this stage of my career, I'm still in the quest of that like magic bullet on business development, right? So everything I need to know for my cases, I will research, I will learn
Yeah.
independently, right, as the issues arise in the case, and sort of handle it that way. But at this point in my career, as I'm looking to grow my practice, right, and grow my business opportunities, that's what I'm looking for, is the inspiration. Now, it turns out this 1 hour conversation didn't teach me anything new. Um,
Ah,
but I learned, but what I took away from it was like a business coach doing a presentation about effective networking for women.
okay.
Didn't add any value, but there were four panelists, so four lawyers
Oh.
talking about what they do. That added value, because
Ah,
you know what, I get inspiration from the camaraderie
mhm.
of, I do this, I used to do this, I don't like this anymore, in the Zoom environment, here's how you can do it. There's a lot of value there. um,
Yeah.
but but that's, I don't know, what are you looking for? You clearly know your industry.
Same thing. Very similar. I am looking to grow my company. I'm looking to find better ways to do what we do. Um, just it's funny. I was on a call yesterday with a group of people, and they were talking about, how do you grow from one person to the next person? Because I was talking about how I just took a month off from work to, be with family and do all kinds of things. And other people who have employees are like, well, how do you train somebody? And then it's like that first person you train is so hard. And it was like, so I've done that, but I'm at the point where I want to grow and I want to do what I do better.
Right.
And that's what I'm looking for. I'm always looking for better ways to run teams, better way to train teams, better ways to onboard employees, clients, and how to enhance my clients' experience
Right.
and how to measure my clients' experience. Like, did they have a good experience? Were their expectations met? Those are the things that I want to learn about. I don't need to learn any more accounting. I'm good. Full.
But it's Michelle makes a great point, right? She says, always be looking for tools and
Yeah.
apps. And I wholeheartedly agree with that, because I think about the way I run my law practice now, I could not do without
Oh,
my laptop or my iPad or my cell phone, or my smartphone.
oh my God.
How could you do all of this? It would have taken
Oh,
3 people to do what we do now with one smartphone. And I think that it's really important to recognize that we may not know about them, but there are other tools out there that make life easier, that
yep.
make it possible to do what we do in the 24 hours a day that we have.
Yeah. Now it's going to make, and I do have to say, like, from where I first started to where I am now, I would say the first maybe 5 years, technology was not where I wanted it to be. And then in the last 5 years, it has, it has completely accelerated everything.
Right.
It takes so much less time to do a lot of the manual work that we used to have to do before. And we spend so much more of our time now on doing financial analysis. And that's starting to be automated too.
Right.
And
But
learning how to do that and
right.
what's the practice with it. And,
Part of
where,
your learning too is then realizing what is out there that's going to be done by artificial intelligence or machine learning.
Mhm.
And then how do I distinguish so I
And how
feel like there'll always be a reason for me to be
yeah.
here, because there are some things that humans are just going to have to do, right?
That's so funny because that was going to be my second point was how do you like doing these things that an app can do and software can do, but keeping that human element to it, because in the end we all want to deal with the human on some level.
Right.
And I think that just dealing with machines is not, it's not ever going to be okay.
Yeah.
So
So the other thing I encourage everybody to do, because we've just had this fantastic conversation about technology and how it makes our lives run, make sure you sign up for a webinar or something about how to protect yourself in when using technology, how to make sure everything's backed up correctly. Because that's the stuff where I go to presentations about that and I walk away with pages of notes
yeah.
of stuff that I'm not even sure what half of it means, but I know that I have to call somebody to ask them to make sure that I'm doing it correctly, to make sure that my emails are encrypted, to make sure that the backups are actually working as they should be. So it's worth it to just, you know, even though those types of webinars really scare me, but it's worth it to put yourself in that situation to say, okay, but I need to know this stuff. So I, as the owner, have the ultimate obligation, right? I have to make sure that my banking is secure and,
Yeah.
things like that. So,
And also whenever you learn, whatever you learn, as Aisha's talking about cybersecurity and all that scary stuff that we think about all the time, share it.
right.
Share what you learn, because that develops those bonds of trust too. That is, we can't be in person with each other, but you can certainly, come on a call and talk about things. We're at the end, and I just want to tell everybody next time, like, this is going to be our last time. That's a wrap for 2020, and we're going to be talking about our favorite topics that we went over in 2020, and we will be discussing with you, and we would love your input on anything that was your favorite that we talked about in these past several months. But it was great seeing everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Aisha. It was great seeing you, and we'll see everybody next Thursday.
Have a great week. Bye.
Take care.